and bold choices should be celebrated, not criticized.
Yeah, not criticized.
Not criticized at all.
In fact, anyone criticizing the film should be silenced by force.
Constructive criticism is not only healthy for the industry, but it is absolutely necessary for the comic book industry to succeed and to thrive. However, there are a lot of individuals that believe that constructive criticism and just criticism in general is inherently negative, hateful, toxic, and unhealthy, and that somehow channels like mine are what's causing the problems within the comic book industry, or at least part of the problem of what we see within comic books, media, and entertainment. The thing is, this couldn't be farther from the truth. Channels like mine want to see the comic book industry succeed. Channels like mine and others, we want this stuff to be great. We are fans of this stuff. That's why we come across so passionately about some of the decisions that are made within these organizations. And to prove my point about this, we're going to take a look at the back of some of these comic books from the 80s and 90s, and we're going to look at the criticism that fans have mailed in to these publishers, mainly Marvel, and we're going to take a look at what some of the editors and some of the publishers responded back to some of the criticism. I'm going to bring up my own personal experience with criticism within the Marine Corps, within my career, how it got me to be successful in my field, and how it really helped me and developed me as an officer, as a Marine, as a man, as a leader, as a mentor, and how criticism was so influential in my experience. And so I'm going to share that story with you guys lastly. But before we get into that, I do want to be very clear and just say, are there channels that are inherently negative, that do create unnecessary negative criticism for the sake of rage baiting and like outrage clicks and stuff? Absolutely. Those people, those channels, those media outlets, those journalists, those individuals do exist. So don't hear me saying that those people and those outlets do not exist, because they absolutely do. And so that's why I'm going to be discussing in today's video the importance of necessary, healthy, constructive criticism. And yes, it still can sound harsh. Believe it or not, like constructive criticism that helps others and makes others successful can still sound very negative, but that's still an overall good thing. Speaking of some harsh constructive criticism, let's get things started by going back in time and looking at the fan mail sent into Marvel for one of my favorite series of all time, Wolverine. In issue number 62, written by Larry Hama with art by Mark Teixeira, published in 1992, a reader passionately writes in saying, "Dear Cutting Edge, like many before me, I have just picked up issue number 57 of Wolverine, and I must say it was the worst issue you have done yet. The art, the script, the lettering, and the coloring were all excellent, but the plot... How could you go and kill off Mariko Yashida like that? Great. Now Wolvie's gonna become a psycho killer again because of all the problems that have recently surfaced in his life. Now he has to face the world alone because his love Mariko is dead. Smooth move, people. I've always loved Wolverine until now. Issue number 57 was the only issue I have ever ripped up. I must say that I am pretty ticked off. You cost him his emotional anchor. Bad move, people. Where do you get off killing Mariko? This is the worst mistake you have ever made in this comic. Bring Mariko back. There just aren't enough words to describe the anger I feel towards you. You have just lost a die-hard Wolverine fan. Way to go, people." To which the editor, Bob Harris, responds with, "We're sorry you feel so upset, Doug. Of course, Wolverine has gone through quite a lot during this past year. But don't count on him becoming a psycho killer just yet. Wolverine is a lot tougher than you give him credit for, and he still has his friends who will offer him all the support he needs. Hang in there. After all Wolverine has been through, we don't want you to give up on us now." Or how about we look at the X-Mail page from issue 104 of the X-Men, written by Chris Claremont, illustrated by Dave Cockrum, published in 1977, in which a reader writes a controversial opinion letter saying, "Dear Stan, For a long time, the X-Men was my favorite comic magazine. Alas, there is no more. The new X-Men are the worst Marvel creations I can remember. Chris's script is really lousy. He has left all the new X-Men as one-dimensional characters, the best or worst examples being Colossus and Storm. Dave's art is almost as bad as Chris's writing. He is great at drawing aircraft such as the Harrier and Space Shuttle, but I've never seen Jean look so ugly. And the way he draws Scott, well, it is so awful it pains me to think of it. To which the editor responds, "We're going to let your letter speak for itself, Sam. Of course, we disagree with your comments and suggestions. In our opinion, those changes would totally destroy the book. But then, we're prejudiced. And we'll say, really, is that out of all the few hundred letters we've received so far regarding the Sentinel trilogy, yours is one of the half dozen or so that didn't like what Dave and Chris are doing. Anyone in the audience care to respond to Mr. Mandel's letter? You can write him, and we'll, meaning this Armadillo, Claremont, and Cockrum being too cheap and lazy to help out the bums, read them, and print some of them." Now let's check out a response from Kenneth from Marvel Comics Presents issue number 69, originally published in 1991. He says, "Dear Terry, I won't even go into the Wolverine story. Sooner or later, the rest of Marvel's readers will have Wolverine burnout like I already have. I enjoyed the character when he appeared in the X-Men, but I haven't been too thrilled with his appearances since then. On the other hand, I've been waiting for a Werewolf by Night revival for years. I remember owning several beat-up copies of the original series as a youngster. I'm now the ripe old age of 18. The mysterious, seductive art of Jim Fry is some of the best this title has ever seen. I do think, however, that Marvel should stop glamorizing sorcery and magic. For years, Marvel has done this in books like Doctor Strange, something which may have encountered young people to experiment with magic and led them into satanic cults. Please give this some careful consideration. All in all, I enjoyed reading half of Marvel Comics Presents issue number 55. Not bad." The publisher responds, "Well, guess it's good that you at least like 50% of the issue. Hopefully you will eventually like all 4 of our stories, Kenneth. As for your cult comment, we don't think the Werewolf by Night story inspires cult joining in our youthful readers. If anything, it may discourage some from any thoughts that may have crossed their minds of joining cults. This is our intention, and we think that Len and Jim did an admirable job of tackling a sensitive subject." And last but not least, let's check out Punisher Warzone issue number 19, written by Dan Abnett and Andy Lanning, first published in 1993. Victor writes into the War Correspondence. He says, "Dear Warzone, I would like to express some negative feelings that my friends and I share about the new story arc starting in Punisher Warzone number 12. There aren't that many people at my school that collect Warzone, or for that matter, any Punisher comics. This surprises me because of all the books have been remarkably realistic storylines and, for the most part, good art. I hate to see such a great book go downhill. The first and second storylines were both great, and when I picked up number 12, I almost put it back. I mean, first of all, the guy on the cover can't be the Punisher. Look at him, he's some wimpy little punk sitting on a couch staring into space. I myself don't see why you didn't sign John Romita Jr. permanently. I happen to like the thug look. Also, who made up this story? I've read 2 of the 5 parts and I still don't get it. It seems to be that he got sent back in time or something." And Don Daly, the editor, responds with, "Back in time? No. Brainwashed? Yes. You're right, that wasn't the Punisher, but this issue, he's back in all his glory." What did you guys think of that? For me, this is so rad to look into the past and see what people were saying about some of these comic book issues and their valid criticism. When the editors read them, when the assistant editors read them, did you notice their responses? Some of them really address the issues and put a lot of these readers at ease. Their comments and their responses weren't snarky, sarcastic, condescending, pessimistic. The editors and publishers' responses were well thought out, and they respected their audience. Now, most people would read these and they'd go, now in 2023 and think, man, these are just a bunch of fanboy, crybabies who live in their mom's basement. What a bunch of chud losers. You would be met with bigot, sexist, racist, chud, homophobe, white supremacist, everything under the sun. You would be labeled, and your ideas and your criticism would be thrown away. So what happened? Why did we go from 1977, 1980s, 1993? Now we're in 2023, and somehow we've regressed on criticism. We've regressed with the responses and the tone of how individuals talk to each other. These are just passionate fans who wanted to share their opinion on these books. They didn't write it with malice or hatred in their minds. They wrote it because they wanted to be heard. They had an opinion about the book and they wanted it to be addressed. And I think that effectively happened within the back of these comic books. You can still love something and yet critique it. And that's the main point here. You can still have love for something. You can still be positive about something and yet still critique it in a healthy, constructive way. And before we get out of here, I'll just share my quick experience and a quick little story with you guys from what I've experienced with criticism from my time being in the Marine Corps. So what we do is we give something called fitness reports. We give them every quarter, maybe every 6 months or so. And I, as an officer, would give them to my enlisted Marines on their performance. And then officers above me would give me fitness reports on how I was doing within the platoon, within the company, within the battalion. And so one year as a young lieutenant, I was on my deployment and my captain gave me a fitness report basically saying that I needed to take more initiative in the mission plans that I was doing. When it came to me receiving a mission or receiving a task or a plan, I would be able to complete it right then and there on the spot. I was really good at receiving tasks and completing them. However, he wanted me to take more initiative by going out on my own, finding tasks to complete, finding missions that I could potentially create, and accomplishing those on my own volition, accomplishing those on my own. And that was one of his criticisms, and he was very harsh about it. And it sucked. It was hard to hear. It was harsh. I don't want to be told that I'm not doing a good job at something. And yet it gave me an opportunity to get better. It gave me an opportunity to see where my deficiencies were, see where I could get better at, and then grow from that. Because what that does is by criticizing me, by giving me constructive criticism and feedback, I now can help everyone around me, because if I get better at that thing, my peers, my other lieutenants will feel more camaraderie around me. They'll feel better around me while I'm taking more initiative on things. My subordinate, my enlisted Marines that I'm leading in my platoon, they will feel like they have a better leader, a better example for them to go into battle with. It helps everyone. Constructive criticism will help everyone within an organization. And for me, by making myself better, it helped everyone. And it was tough. It was a challenge. I'm not saying that it's just I just had to do this and all of a sudden I'm all better. No, it took a while for me to get used to taking that initiative or working on myself, working on these different projects and these missions and things like that. And so that's why I want to kind of equate it to the comic book industry and what's going on now, is that if we constructively criticize the people within the industry and the products that we are receiving, whether it's comic books, movies, whatever it may be, if we constructively criticize those things, it helps everyone. Fans will begin to enjoy better books. The production companies, the organizations are going to make more money because they will be producing better content that we have criticized them for or made better because of our criticisms. You see where I'm going with this? It all connects with each other. And so that's why I get so passionate and so heated when people say that, oh, it's my channel that's causing the industry harm, or it's channels like mine that make everything inherently toxic. No, it's going to make people better. And case in point, my military example, my military story, things like that are going to make people better. Not just yourself, but the people around you who want to see you succeed, who want to see you thrive. Just like me, who's a fan of this stuff, who wants to see this succeed, wants to see this thrive. Why would I want it to die? You know, I've had decades worth of fun and enjoyment through these stories. Why would I want to see it die now? Of course I'm going to criticize it because I'm passionate about it and I want it to succeed. So I would love to hear from y'all, and let me know in the comment section below some of the criticism that you've received, some of the criticism that you have for comics and how they could get better, how the industry could get better, and where we go from here. But other than that, thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and I will see y'all in the next video.